I saw a crazy meteor shower last night.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was wonderful. Just long tails on those boys and girls on those meteors.
Awesome.
We know Adam sets the per capita income in his neighborhood, so.
I do. I'm
That's
like,
true.
look at all of this. Look at all my stuff.
Look at my goods.
Can you do this?
Yeah.
How many G-Wagons
You're such
do
a
you own?
stuffed guy.
I have 0.
You're right. You have 0 stuff.
I don't even know what a G-Wagon is, but I just like the sound of it.
Gangsta wagon.
That's sad you don't know what a G-Wagon is.
Should I say this out loud? Welcome back to the Jack of the Shadows podcast, season 2, episode 11. I'm Eric VC, and as always, I'm joined by my favorite Cotter and Sweat Hog, Dave and Adam. Say hello, Dave.
What?
Say hello, Adam.
Clue.
What was that?
I'm Cotter because I'm not going to be the Sweat Hog.
Hogs.
Sorry.
It's
You're
more
the
than
Sweat
one.
Hog.
Hey, you know who
What is
who
that?
is the Sweat Hog?
No.
John Travolta.
What is that even?
Oh, welcome home, Cotter.
Or welcome
There was
back,
a
Cotter.
Sweat Hog.
Whichever
welcome back.
you prefer.
See, I couldn't even name the show.
Welcome.
Oh, boy.
Well,
Welcome
what
home,
was
Cotter.
that?
named Sweat Hog?
No, the group of them were called the Sweat Hogs.
Why do you even know this?
It's things
You know
people
what?
know.
He's got
Who
we're
are my
7
age.
books in. He's got to go in.
I'm your age. I don't know this.
Or-
Well, you don't know as much about 1980, early 80s television as I do.
And I'm,
Yeah, Dave,
I
you
don't
weren't
mind
watching
that at
Welcome
all.
Back, Cotter, and memorizing.
No,
the
I was
truth
watching The
name.
Love Boat.
Yeah.
Oh,
Captain Stubing.
yeah.
Mhm.
You're like,
How many of the Love Boat characters can
today.
you name?
Stephanie, Captain
Maybe
Stubing,
someone will
Gopher,
forget.
Doc,
Isaac.
Sorry, Eric.
Isaac, good call.
That's all of them. That's all the important ones.
Mm-hmm.
This episode, we will start with View from a Dragonmount, reviewing the plot for this week's chapters, then move on to Colavaere Off Course when we discuss what happened to the head of House Saigon. We'll then move on to our emo hero's wife in Epic Faile. Then discuss Rand's new right-hand man and the man who would be Dream before moving to this Epic's hero in Get Randy. We'll wrap up, as we always do, with our Coplin of the week and who leveled up. So let's soar into our podcast proper by rising on the wings of the constant heat that's enveloped this continent and soaring to the top of its geographic tribute to self-immolation for our View from Dragonmount.
These poor plants. These poor plants. They've just been there
Chapter
and now
1,
they're
High
just-
Chasseline. So the heat continues to get worse. It's the celebration of High Chasseline, which must be winter solstice in this world. The Aiel have taken 200 Shido prisoners.
That's not a few.
The victors of Dumai's Wells have moved south from the battleground and now reflect on the power and danger of the Ashaman and what to do with the Aes Sedai captives. Aram has suggested it might be better
What
if
do you
someone
know?
killed the Aes Sedai, and Perrin wonders how many others might have thought of this and
Oh, that once
if
upon
they'll
a time
have to
beautiful
protect the
man.
Aes Sedai from these people. The camp has become a tinderbox now that the alliances necessary to win the battle are slowly dissolving, and then there are the Aes Sedai, which no one seems comfortable having around. Which takes us to
Except for
chapter
the wise
2,
ones.
The Butcher's Yard with the crow's glyph. The beginning of this chapter made me really sad. I think it's important to take a moment to mourn the losses after this battle we have, and we'll continue to spend time celebrating the excitement of some of these battles, but through Perrin, we get a very good appreciation here for the grotesqueries of this battle.
He drives me crazy in this chapters.
You've got bodies hacked by blades and
I
are
wanna
being
hear
picked
about that.
apart by birds. They're charred by fire.
Just black.
Black and gross. Sweltering in the heat. The Dumai's Wells death toll is 19 Two Rivers folk, 200 Mayeeners,
That made me sad.
200 Kyrianen, and 1,000 or more Aiel.
I mean, that's a lot
Yeah.
of deal.
Just out there moldering in the heat. Perrin stands looking over the killing ground and reflecting on the dead and the actions of the past 2 days. We get the sense that Perrin suspects the Aes Sedai he led to rescue Rand might have had designs of their own on Rand, The Aes Sedai who have sworn allegiance are roaming around free, but seem to have Ashaman not far behind them.
Looming in the background.
The night before, parents stumbled onto a distraught Rand as he counted out the 150 dead maidens he'd witnessed.
That's 1/10 of the dead Aiel.
I just mad respect for that man right there for that.
That's
For
a lot.
Memorizing all the names of. First of all, that's amazing. How many of us have lists in our head that we've memorized that are that long?
Do you think
I
that's
can't name.
It's like got to be 200 to 200, to 300 women whose names he's memorized.
Do you think that's a power thing? I mean, because who could do that?
Maybe.
No.
He was a sheep herder, so he's just
there
really
are
good
certain
at
Right,
counting
he named
people.
the sheep and he kept track of all them. That's entirely possible. All right.
Yeah, there are people out there that are capable of that. Just none
There
of them
are.
are on this podcast. Charles Gedwin emerges as a name we may want to follow. He's an Ashaman who seems to be in charge of watching the Aes Sedai.
And a bit of a jerk.
He's waiting for an opportunity to battle them. Yeah, he's looking to pick a fight.
Yeah, he is certainly weighing time.
Time seems to be sticking close to Rand, but there's an odd moment when he interacts with Gedwin upon returning to the camp with Rand. Rand is having the Aes Sedai look through the wagons for something, and the two of them seem to nod at each other over this.
Sup?
Yeah. What could it be other
Thanks
than
for
a
that
magical,
observation, Adam.
Yeah.
What could it be other than a magical trinket?
Yes. There are some who speculate that this magical trinket is the Fat Man that Rand has misplaced during the fight.
No, Rand didn't misplace it during the fight. The Aes Sedai took it with his clothes. If you recall back, when he was kidnapped, they stripped him of his clothes, and the Fat Man Angreal was in his pocket.
Well, okay, I said misplaced. You're right. He didn't deliberately lose it, but he has lost it.
Yeah,
because his clothes have been taken.
For all we know, they might have taken it.
And that has helped him out a time or two.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that. Like,
very. Because
I legitimately was going to
another man.
Last chapter, that was almost my Willow. Was what happened to the Fat Man Angreal?
Well, once again, Rand is watching what's going on with a little bit of trepidation, and these two men have a moment. So that would seem to suggest that they know where it is. Oh, right. The quotation is, Time stepped inside. He glanced at Gedwin, who shook his head just a hair. A grimace flashed across Time's face and was gone as soon as it appeared.
Yeah, I mean, that could just be something between those two. I mean, we don't trust Taim, and anyone who's like his right-hand man,
it's within the context of Rand eyeing the Aes Sedai or eyeing the search through the wagons for something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's within that context.
Oh, boy.
We get fully introduced to Karuna Sedai. We've seen her briefly in the Fires of Heaven and the Lord of Chaos. She seems to be taking her leadership of the Aes Sedai.
That posse.
She's sworn to Rand. Yes, right. That small group, which is now grown. It could be this or simply the fact
maybe we can trust them, Aes Sedai.
It could be this or simply the fact that she is the sister of King Arafel, but she is extremely arrogant.
Yeah.
Having been sent by Sheriam to look for Rand with the Aiel in the waist, she surprised Min by her appearance at the Crown of Roses. So that's another moment that we saw her. If you can recall, Min had a viewing of Karuna and Bera in Lord of Chaos, chapter 49. It's the aura, blood, death, the one power, those two women and you all in the same place at the same time.
Oh, wild.
Yes. So this was one of Min's foreseeings.
Do we have any idea that Rand is thinking this in his head about her at this point in time? Is he recalling that Min said this?
What would we learn by the answer to that?
That he would be wary of her.
There was the suspicion that she was going to die, and she didn't die, but she was there on the day of this bloody battle. So we've known that she's been tied to Rand leading up to this point from Min. There's an argument over who should take charge of the Aes Sedai prisoners, with Karuna, Mazrim Taim, and Soralea each arguing that their groups should be the ones in charge of the loyalists. Rand decides to hand the task to the wise ones. After commanding Alana to heal him, Rand
That goes over like a lead brick.
Rallies the group to leave. After the wise ones walk away to take the Aes Sedai under charge, there's an exchange between Rand and Mazrim Taim over the fact that Rand has no honor guard of Ashaman that reveals how contentious the relationship is between Rand and Mazrim Taim, which is highly contentious.
And not good.
You think?
Rand finally acquiesces a little by allowing himself to take one more Ashaman of his choosing. And he chooses at random Corlin Dashiva.
Just
which
randomly
takes us
points
to Chapter
him.
3, Hill of
He
the
just
Golden
points
Dawn.
his hand backwards.
Right.
Like he did before.
With the
Which was
Flame of Tarbal.
a little bit of a big deal. Yeah.
So Rand leads about 1,000 people through the gateway created by Dashiva to Cairhien. Narishma notices an Aiel woman running toward them from the woods about a mile off. Is it Farragon?
Yes.
Farragon spoken. Please.
Farragon informs them that since Rand's departure, the bleakness has retaken the Aiel, and Colavaere's declared herself queen of Cairhien.
I'm scared.
She goes on to say that
I am
Caroline Damodred and Torum Riatzen have been joined by Darlin Cisnera south of the city in declaration of Colavaere as a usurper.
It's not good.
Darling.
She then tells Rand there may be 10 or more Aes Sedai in Cairhien and many staying with Erlin Dwalane. Rand attempts to begin convincing the Aiel he's not controlled by the Aes Sedai by having the Wise Ones make their control of the Aes Sedai public. And Perrin frets over the fate of his wife in the Sun Palace.
Frets, it's an interesting way to put it.
Which takes us to Chapter 4, into Cairhien, with the rising sun of Cairhien as the glyph. Rand and his small party approach the Sun Palace. The Ashaman trap the guards at the palace entry and air as they enter. Upon reaching the entry hall, they're confronted by Camail Nolesian and Salanda Darengil, who seem to be leaders of the guard there. Is that the woman's name? Nolason.
No, that's a guy.
Camail Nolason.
Nolason is one of the men.
Well, he's got a very effeminate name.
Well, you know.
Rand puts them at ease, though. They're obviously aware of what happened. Perrin demands the location of Faile, and Salanda informs him she is one of Lady Colavaere's attendants.
She wasn't very happy about having to say that information even.
Yeah.
One of Solanda's guardsmen reveals this was to be kept a secret, as Adam just mentioned. Rand requests to be led by this group to the Grand Hall. He says there will be no swordplay, simply justice, which takes us to Chapter 5, A Broken Crown, with the dragon glyph. We get introduced to Anura Sedai, Colavaere's short-lived advisor, who immediately acquiesces to Rand. She apparently has been the advisor to Barrelane all this time. Then Faile accuses Barrelane of breaking her oaths to Rand. Anura reveals her thief catchers have captured those who killed High Lords Marengil and Mylan. Rand confronts Colavaere in the Grand Hall. He takes the sun crown from her head with the statement, "Whatever can be done can be undone."
Yeah.
Rather than allow Colavaere to be sentenced to death by High Lord Dorbrain, Rand banishes her to the smallest farm on the outskirts of the Dragon Wall.
Classic Rand.
I just can't wait to talk about that.
Chapter 6, Old Fear and New Fear, with the wolf glyph. Faile and Perrin find themselves next to each other. There's some conversation between Faile and Dobrain about Colavaere, during which Faile suggests a few times to Dobrain that they kill Colavaere one way or the other.
Perrin's not having it.
He picks up on that and makes it clear it's not going to happen. Faile reveals that she's been afraid that Perrin and Rand were under the control of the Aes Sedai, and Perrin works to reassure her that that's not the case. Having Dobrain and Aram confirm that the Aes Sedai she's seen are under Rand's authority. They leave the hall, and Perrin asks Faile how she became one of Colavaere's attendants. She says it was because of her connections.
Faile, what happened? How'd you do that?
I don't like that you did that. If only that's the way he actually talked.
When they reach their rooms, the conversation escalates as Faile reveals to Perrin that Berylane was floating the story that Perrin had gone off to the countryside where she went and visited him.
Oh, Berylane. She's in the pot and she's stirring.
Faile says her report that Perrin has gone hunting was widely ignored. Perrin snaps and grabs Faile while venting his concerns for her safety and the danger she was in. And this changes Faile's attitude entirely, and she loses her jealousy.
Perrin,
Yeah,
I'm feeling as
sure does.
husky as a farm
I feel like
life.
that was recommended 2 books ago.
Just as the romance is about to escalate, Rand bursts into the room and tells Perrin he must know if the man is or is not going to lead an army to Ilion.
Yeah.
To which Perrin says it's probably best that he not go to Ilion, but there's still plans for him that will be followed in a day or two from Rand.
It's got to stick with Rand.
And the chapter ends with Perrin and Faile reconciled as we have not seen them in a book. So, Adam, what shook your willow?
Oh, mine was the fact that Perrin thought to himself at one point if Faile's horse Swallow could make it safely back to Carrion. Kyrian.
You're thinking of
that
the dead.
Everything was going to be okay. And Robert Jordan wrote that it was just like a foolish boy's fantasy. But I absolutely remember doing this when I was trying to fall asleep as a kid.
What did you remember? Like what?
I just remember just trying to come up with the most obscure scenarios in my head that everything would be okay if like my dog walked into my room and she were inside out, then everything would go poorly. But if she didn't do that, it would be okay.
Inside
I just
out.
think it was a great thing because it is a foolish boy's fantasy.
Wait. You
wanted Tori to be turned inside out?
You imagined your childhood puppy turned inside out?
To be turned inside out. I thought that if she came into my room,
if she were turned inside out, first of all, how would she walk into the room?
Better yet,
I don't know.
How would you be able to sleep with that in your mind?
What I thought in my head was that's going to be super abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with the most obscure thing that I could think of.
Okay.
You had issues as a child, Adam.
Apparently, my point was, I think that this is a super normal childhood thing.
But he's not a child.
Book, and I thought it was a really nice way for Robert Jordan to say, like, he's worried, but I'm just going to write about this little aspect that if you can just bring Swallow in, everything's going to be all right. And guess what? He brought Swallow in, and everything was all right.
I mean, relative.
This is a very human emotion, and under duress, we all become a little childish. So Perrin,
100%.
Yeah. So Perrin is, and even Perrin recognizes this is a foolish thing, and he knows it, and yet he also recognizes he's still clinging to it because he has no control over the situation. So this is something that gives him a sense of control.
Yep.
Mine
as that illusion is.
Mine was Loyal's admission that he wants to marry Aerith at the beginning of chapter 4. And then he concludes the statement with, "It's hardly safe to open your mouth with to Ta'Veren about anything at all might come out."
Yeah, he was saying some stuff about her.
No, he just admitted that he loves her and he wants to marry her. Except for the fact that
but he was saying something about her before that too, as well.
No, he's clearly like he's of two minds. On the one hand, he has a crush on this girl, and then on the other hand, he doesn't want to be tied to home just yet.
Yeah. I don't want to say I like the writing about it, but I like the fact that it's something that was brought up like right away. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, Loyal, what in the world? Why are you saying this right away? And then he brings up the fact, oh wait, no, I am by type. I'm just around Ta'Veren. And then it happens, and it gets brought up kind of later on in two chapters from now about someone else is around Ta'Veren and says something that she should not have.
Something silly.
I mean, this is just he's using that as an excuse. That's not why he said what he said.
I think he is, but I also feel like it came around so suddenly that I think there is a bit of an excuse there.
I think it's been bubbling up for a book and a half. He's been talking about Aerith. It's been obvious that
I just don't want another relationship.
Okay, well there we go. So
I think that's my problem.
You recognize that this isn't actually an untimely reveal. It's simply that coming. You just don't want another relationship. I actually don't think it's coming. I think that I think that there is going to be another run-in, but I think that they're in the Two Rivers right now, right?
Yeah. They move slow.
Wherever they're going there, yeah.
Once they get there, they're going to head out because they're going to discover that Perrin that Loyal isn't there anymore. And who knows how they're going to find Rand, but that's coming. But that was hilarious. I mean, he sort of spat this out and then blamed it on Ta'Veren, even though he knows the truth.
I think I got fooled a little bit by it. Good job, Loyal.
Dave, what's your Willow?
Mine also involves Loyal, but it's the fact that in the middle of all the fracas going on, Loyal is furiously taking notes in his book.
That's great.
It's just this one scene where craziness is happening all around, and Loyal. They look back and Loyal's just scribbling, and he's scribbling. But I have to take notes from my book, Rand. I don't know what might happen.
Perrin looks over and is like, he's still taking notes.
Right. So funny.
Well, everybody, Rand has just had an amazing display of power and is issuing all of the Kyrianen out of the throne room, and Ben Loyal is still sitting there hastily scribbling notes away. He is our resident nerd. Yes. He is the kid with taped glasses and his little.
It brought back a little of Eric. I think you had the thought that what are these? Is this all Loyal's books? It brought back
maybe
that
it
thought
is,
to me that he might just be the narrator of all these books.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I do think that that's what we're reading is Loyal's book.
This seems to point towards that.
He is, he's constantly taking notes in that book. Though we don't get the development of this is the way that this scene plays out is great because we finally get to see. We finally get to see the man at his craft, right? Because up to this point, there's just been allusions to the fact that he's doing this, and now we get to see there's something going on.
Or every time he misses it,
he's got his hands are full of stuff, and he's desperately trying to pen notes into his little tiny steno pad.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then he pointed out the fact, hey, I need to be around for my book.
Exactly.
I need to be around for my book.
All right, so let's talk about Colavaere here and Colavaere Off Course. So she gets
just fantastic.
What's fantastic about it?
The name. We like the Colavaere Off Course.
She sure did.
Colavaere Saigon, the head of House. What is it? She's the head of House Saigon, sorry. She has assembled a coup, and 3 days after Rand has been taken out of the city because she's had conversations with the Aes Sedai loyalists, she crowns herself queen.
Promises were made.
And that leads to not a rebellion, but upon Rand's return, Dobrain says she should be executed, and Rand decides instead to banish her to her smallest farm, right?
The tiny farm.
Yeah. That was a really interesting scene, though, because he said, does she have a small farm?
He's thinking furiously of any way to get around this.
Yeah, no.
So that's the first question. Which is worse for her, banishment or execution?
I think for her, banishment yeah.
So Rand actually finds a worse punishment here.
He does, but it's only because he can't do what needs to be done. So he comes up with something else, which is, I'm getting very concerned about this because we're going to have female Forsaken, and he's not going to be able to kill him, and that's a problem.
At the same time, he has demonstrated a willingness he's created some strange pact with himself when it comes to the maidens. So there's obviously a way for him to be okay with this, but
he's not doing it with the maidens. It's, you know
well,
what I mean?
I think this whole scene is really strange because Perrin is viewing it and it looks like he is talking to himself. So he's having a struggle inside of his mind. So he's clearly talking to Luce.
Yeah.
I would like to know what they're maybe in the next chapter, because maybe we'll find out what they were actually talking about.
Right. What that conversation was.
So he comes up. I think that is definitely a worse punishment for her, because she was the one that was like, I don't want to get hung like a poor person. I need the axeman. So she was fine with that. So I think it is a better punishment, honestly, but who knows? She might just rise again.
So you think it's a better punishment? Do you think it was the right decision? I think it's a better
punishment if it's laid out that with all the parameters of what took place, the fact that she has to go to this farm and she has to have people come there and teach her how to do it, and then the fact that she can't walk a day away. If that actually took place and that's what her life would be, I think it would be a better punishment, because I don't think she'd ever learn from it. Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think she would?
She's not going to reform.
She'd never reform. So I think that's better than just ending everything.
Like I said, I'm just concerned because this is it. He can't kill a woman, concerned. And he took a long time weighing this out to figure out what this is happening. So when he's battling a Forsaken and he can't kill her, and there's no time to react, what's he going to do? Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I agree.
So you don't think this is a good decision?
Which is funny, because I'm not concerned now that he's going crazy. I'm just concerned now that he's having too long of a conversation
right.
with another
I think
being.
I think it's great from a humiliation standpoint, and to with this situation, I'm not terribly concerned with how it's going to turn out, because he's going to send her to this farm and she's going to be watched. I think it's a waste of resources for her to be watched. I think he needs to, if there's rules and there's the law, he needs to follow that. Because if you don't, you start showing that you're making exceptions, because it seems like you're weak. You can't do what needs to be done, and the other rulers are going to be paying attention to this, thinking, okay, so what can I get away with now that he's not going to be able to flex on, or that he will flex on?
Well, but isn't it pretty clear that this is tied to women?
Right. There's other female rulers.
Okay, but but it would only be women who would see this as a weakness.
The men are going to see it. The men are still going to see it as a weakness. Men are absolutely going to see it as a weakness.
But whatever leniency Rand has shown will not be applied to them.
Well, theoretically correct. Yeah. I mean, who knows?
They would be foolish, don't you think, to count on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Overall, then, do you think that Rand has done the right thing by her?
I think so.
I think for her the punishment is worse, which is fine.
Right.
I'm fine with her having a worse punishment.
That's how I'm feeling, but also there is still just this opportunity that she could get out of it somehow.
Right.
And what you were saying, Dave, that he at this point kind of needs to just lay the hammer down.
He's been doing it in so many other aspects.
I think he should have had her killed.
Yeah. He's been doing it in so many other aspects and not this.
I agree. I think he should have had her executed.
Yeah. I think he should have had her hung, not the axeman.
Right. Whatever the law
think
was.
about what she did. Like this is what I was saying. She's the one that brought up. She said to herself, I didn't think that they promised me that you weren't going to come back. And then she was just confused why she actually put that out there. And it's because he is the ultimate Taviran.
Mm-hmm.
So she should have been just taken out. But
she's a huge
this
traitor.
Is probably more torture for her. I just don't think it was probably the right move.
Oddly enough, we've seen this coming. Min has had a view that she was going to be hung.
Yeah. So how's that going to work? I mean, I guess there's still time.
She still will be.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we know she will be, right?
Yeah, that's true.
We know that Min's viewings.
Yeah, she'll probably go to a farm and the people will be like, you don't know how to run a farm.
Death to you.
Right. You're a terrible
You're a terrible manager.
You can't hoe for crap. Your green beans grew up all shriveled and gnarly. That's it. We're hanging you.
That's it.
How do you,
Death
you don't
by
know
hanging.
how to deal with vermin?
You are vermin, therefore you die.
You are the vermin, yeah.
That being said, we don't know when that's going to happen.
No.
I still think that I still think that I think that Rand it could, but I think that Rand has created trouble for himself again here. She's all the way out in the middle of nowhere right now, but the woman is incredibly conniving. So I can see her getting off of that farm.
Yeah, I mean, she's absolutely built for politics, and that's just talking to folks. So yeah, maybe.
I think she's capable as well. I don't think she even needs to just talk herself off the farm. I think she can escape.
There's problems, like you said, potential problems and realistic problems with this whole decision.
You think she might be a Forsaken, Adam?
No, I have no idea. I'm just at this point in this book, I'm just throwing things out a window. Okay. I don't know. That would make sense if no. I think if I don't think she would get herself involved in a situation like that if she were a Forsaken. I think that seems very. She seemed very weak, very very weak here.
Yeah, but remember, she also could have seemed very very weak when Rand took over Tyr.
Yeah.
And he's attempted to weaken her on a number of different occasions and do everything he could to keep her as far away from him and keep her as far away from creating trouble as possible. And yet, here she is.
Here she is.
All right. Well, I'm still keeping it out there.
That's Colavaere. I think that she's going to live to cause more problems.
I don't think this is the last of her.
You haven't heard the last of me.
Yes.
That's how she went out, though.
She fainted.
She's just like,
no, she went out.
Just try to prove it. Just try to prove that this happened.
Oh, well, yeah.
But all is still hearsay.
Yeah. But we believe the hearsay.
Oh, I 100% believe the hearsay.
This isn't
I'm
democracy.
Just thinking in our court of law, I don't know if I'd want to see someone put away for this. Strike that from the record.
Well, no, there's a witness. There's an eyewitness in Barrelane's advisor.
Anura, yeah.
I
think there are multiple eyewitnesses.
Yeah, there's more than hearsay.
What's an eyewitness?
Not hearsay. There's a difference between that's not considered hearsay in a court of law.
You're just making it up.
The man who would be dream. Let's talk about Dashiva and his head in the clouds persona.
Are you a nutcase?
Time wants Rand to have an honor guard, and Rand doesn't want a bunch of Ashaman around him. Any particular reason that you can think of why Rand wouldn't want a bunch of Ashaman around him?
I mean, they could go crazy at any given time.
He doesn't want a bunch of Aes Sedai around him.
Which would be?
They could overpower him.
Oh, I'm just thinking they could go crazy at any given time. And
I don't think he trusts these things.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's the craziness thing. I don't think he really trusts this organization that he's created and headed by a man he doesn't trust either.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Yes.
So great job there, Rand.
There's just this like look between them about you have to go back to recruiting, but there's something we talked about regarding that we don't know about.
Yeah,
what do you think that is?
There's something there. I don't know what it is, but something not trustworthy.
This is another look between him and Mazrim Taim. It's like, hey, you need to focus on recruiting, is basically what he was saying to Mazrim. No. You just need to focus on going back and recruiting. And then he's like, but that other thing we talked about, which we don't know. Which I think like is a fairly big deal if that's just brought up, that other thing.
Dashiva is chosen by Rand at random. The only other person we've seen do this up to this point has been Matt. Isn't that odd?
Why did he
odd?
do this? Why did he do it?
He does it because he's trusting his Taviran nature to yield a positive result.
Do you think it was that, or he was trying to make it seem like that he didn't just randomly point back to Alana?
Oh, to distract from the fact that he did that earlier?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
And then Perrin thinks that that dude is going crazy. So,
which is not. I mean, we know that Matt has used this, but Matt has luck in addition to Tavir and Pol. So Matt's relying on two forces to do him well. This is the first time we've ever seen Rand behave in this way that I can recall.
yeah, I thought it was strange. That's why I just thought maybe he was just trying to mask what he did before. But yeah, it's super strange. It does make sense that he's just like, whatever, I'll deal with it later.
Well, I mean, on the one hand, like my initial reaction to it was, oh, this makes sense. I'm totally comfortable with this. But that's only because I've seen Matt do it repeatedly and it result positively. And then I remembered, oh my gosh, I've never seen Rand do this.
No.
I'm not very comfortable with it at all.
So is it that you're not very comfortable with the method, which, by the way, choosing something at random in our lives
I'm not very comfortable
would be
with the
terrible.
choice of
But
who he chose.
okay, what don't you like about Dashiva?
The fact that that Perrin thinks that he's going crazy.
Yeah, he seems to be out of his
and
gourd.
has evidence of the fact that he is straight up just going crazy.
Okay, that's interesting. I could see why you say that, but what we actually read is that he witnesses the same emotions in Dashiva that he witnesses in Rand.
That is true.
So if you don't think Rand is going crazy and that Rand is just dealing with a separate
I have information
entity
though, that I don't think Rand is going crazy any longer.
Right, and I think the difference is we have information that Perrin doesn't.
But I am also thinking that maybe maybe in the back of my head, I'm thinking maybe Rand actually just like vetted that guy while he was standing there and just like kind of just felt, hey, he seems like a good guy.
Once again, Rand chose this guy at random.
I know Rand chose him at random, but he's also
but now you're suggesting he didn't choose him at
random.
But the narration says he chose him at random. It doesn't.
I know. I'm just trying to hold out any hope that this guy isn't actually going crazy.
Well, the hope that this guy isn't going crazy is that Perrin never says he's going crazy. All he says is that he.
You're right. Yes, Perrin only says that he's changing quickly. He's changing quicker than anyone that he's ever. Yeah, you're right. He's doing the same thing Rand is.
That's what Perrin says, is that he senses the same thing. The narration is that Perrin senses the same thing in Dashiva that he senses in Rand. That's what the narration says.
Well, we know that Taim thinks he's a looby.
Because he's always looking off into the clouds. I mean, he never seems to be paying attention to what's going on around him.
Right, and we get that from the narration as well. He's
I want
spacey.
another aloof character. I'm excited for him. I hope he doesn't do anything terrible.
Perrin also thinks he seems slightly insolent. So, in addition to being...
That's par for the course, it seems like, with these Ashamen.
Yeah, but...
Not all of them.
I mean, there's Perrin... I mean, we get this specific observation about this guy who is now, going to be around Rand all the time. Adam, you're concerned about this guy.
Well, I mean, you're bringing me back a little bit from it. The reason I was concerned about it is because of Perrin and how he felt like no one should flip back and forth as quickly as he did and through his senses. But you are right that Rand does the same thing. But he's also an older.
What does Rand have going
correct?
on?
How old is he? He's older, isn't he?
Dashiva is older than Rand.
Yeah, so there's that to be concerned about. So I don't know.
Rand should be suspicious of everyone who's older than he is. You bring up the fact
that
I'm
Rand
concerned
has
about him
bodies within himself. So maybe this guy does as well. But I just feel like Perrin feels like he's going crazy. So maybe he is. I don't know.
Well, then that would mean Rand was going crazy also. We know more about what Perrin is smelling in Rand than Perrin does. So with our knowledge, if you don't think Rand is going crazy, then you don't think that Dashiva is crazy.
Or Perrin could be mistaken.
That then this individual has two different personalities inside of himself.
That is clearly a possibility.
Okay, I have no problem with that. No problem with that. That could be an absolute possibility.
That's not to say that he couldn't have those two things and be going crazy, because Rand could have those two things and be going crazy. There's no separating the two.
Right. No. I started this all out with saying that if you think that Rand is going crazy, then yes, that is.
No, what I do think is interesting, though,
he can be going crazy and Rand could not be.
Well, maybe there are other people that have two different personalities in their being. It doesn't just have to be Lews Therin. He could have someone else in there. I didn't think about that. That's very interesting.
Now we're all of a sudden dealing with something else we don't know about, which is entirely possible.
Yeah, sure, all I'm saying is we need to keep our eye on this guy, because I think there's new information coming. I think that there's something else. Yeah, that's fine.
I wanted to keep my eye on him because I didn't trust him, but I did.
I'm concerned because I think he can just go crazy.
Well,
but Rand, I mean, even if Rand is
not crazy,
yeah, we're not crazy.
Not crazy. He's just selling cars,
right? That Mad Max.
All right, epic Faile. So Perrin finally does get to Faile, and she has been.
Were you happy about it? Because I wasn't even happy about it.
You're about the fact that she was alive, or what? What are we talking about here?
No, I would much prefer that she would have passed away.
I was hoping Faile was dead.
I'm glad she didn't, because can you imagine the state of Perrin at that point?
Can you imagine those books after that?
It was bad enough dealing with him in these chapters.
It would be awful. It would be so bad. It would be just like books with Rand's adventures, and then just Perrin crying over spilled milk.
But isn't that
if you're going to consider your dead wife spilled milk? That's kind of an interesting viewpoint.
No, that's not what I was suggesting.
My dead wife is like spilled milk.
That if milk spilled, Perrin would be in such a depressed state that he would be crying.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
That's terrible.
I was very confused by that one.
So he returns to her. She just ignores him initially when they're in the throne room, and then after everybody leaves, they start talking, and
but she speaks up in the throne room.
Yes,
she does.
And Perrin's like, oh, I didn't expect to hear her voice right now. It's too much.
Right. So first of all, she thinks she's totally safe there as Colavaere's main advisor.
I mean, she was safe there because the horse needed to be brought back. Swallow needed to be brought back.
Okay, right, yeah. So clearly at this point she's indestructible.
Right. I mean, Swallow sets the pace. Where Swallow goes, happiness follows.
Right.
From what we know.
From the facts of this chapter, we know that at this point, because Swallow got to the barn safely,
5 stories.
She will not. She is just immortal now. Does Faile redeem herself with any of you guys from this chapter? Like after this chapter,
no.
After these 6 chapters are over, what are your impressions of Faile at this point?
Same as it ever was.
She's who she is.
True.
It's not really changed. She did what needed to be done. She could have gone into hiding. She could have
been killed.
Could have been killed. She wasn't.
She could have even been killed by being this close to Colavaere. Like
murdered by pirates is good, but she wasn't.
Colavaere has got to know what she's doing. That woman's not stupid.
Well, right.
And she knows who Faile is.
That's why she keeps pitting the other servant against Faile. Like she was doing everything within her power to make Faile's life miserable, which probably was the case, but she came out of it, and guess who?
You think she appointed Faile as her main counselor to make her miserable?
Absolutely. They talk about it in the chapters.
No, that is talked about because she gets stuck with Berlin.
Yeah, she's pit. Thank you. That's who the other person was. She's pitting her against Berlin. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Why doesn't she just have her killed?
Because while she may know that Rand is going off to be killed,
I know why.
She doesn't know that Perrin's going off to be killed. So Perrin could return with an army, which he has. He has his own army, and he could return back to Cairhien and be like, hey, where's my wife? You killed her, and then wage war against her. If Rand's dead, I mean, that doesn't stop Perrin from still doing that.
I just don't feel like what Perrin did is that much more different than what he had done before with her. So I don't understand
what Perrin did?
Why.
I thought we were talking about Faile, not Perrin.
we're talking about Faile in terms of if she has redemption here.
Yeah. But you were saying...
So you're bringing that up. I just don't understand. I don't like Perrin kind of shoved her up against a wall.
So redemption from what, I guess, is the question, Eric.
Adam actually used the word redemption. I didn't use the word redemption at all. I was just asking for your impression.
Not redemption, or why you feel a little bit better about her.
Oh, okay.
Then we get the conversation between she and Dobrain,
right,
in which she suggests that they should ignore Rand's decree and kill Colavaere on their own.
Right. She's doing what Rand can't. She's trying to do what Rand can't. And that's, as we have all just agreed, what needs to be done. And she may be going back against Rand's rule, but she also recognizes, they don't actually do it, but they recognize that this is a problem. This is a huge problem. And Rand can't do it. And if this keeps continuing, which I'm sure it's going to, we're going to have big problems.
Well, those are two different things, actually.
I know, they're completely correlated.
We correlate them. She does not.
How do you know that? Well, I mean,
she's not concerned about Rand's.
I mean, she's pretty bright. She's probably picking up on women.
That. This is specific to Colavaere for her.
Well, right, because that's the only instant at hand.
Right, that's the one that she's concerned with.
I have one question regarding it, and it's the fact that Perrin asked her why she was in that position, and she gave her answer of why she was in the position, and then Perrin smelled on her that there was another reason for it. And what is the other reason for it?
Good question. I don't know.
I just don't necessarily trust Faile at this point. I don't know what else it would be, but why on earth is that just floated out there?
Because I do think that we are supposed to see Faile as not a free agent, but definitely not as somebody who is going to follow Rand. She has her own ideas of what should be done. She has her own ideas of right and wrong, and she's going to follow those, which, by the way, I totally disagree with. I think that Rand is, for better or for worse, Rand is the authority in this world and in this story. And whether or not she thinks she knows better, and in this case, if she did something else, she would be treasonous. No, that's too far. She would be breaking the law. He decreed that Colavaere was to be sent off to this farm, and if she went and killed him, she'd be breaking the law, and she should be punished as
whatever the punishment for that would be.
But
except she wouldn't be, because she's a woman.
Well, that's very true. Maybe she is savvy enough to rely on that.
She would be.
Perrin recognizes that there is a slight amount of danger with her, because she does have her own ideas, and she does seem to be willing to see them through because she has royal blood. We talk about arrogance. I think she has a certain amount of that arrogance in believing that her ideas are the right ideas and should be followed through. And that's going to be interesting to watch moving forward, because while I think that she is an agent of good, two different agents of good can have two different ideas on how things should be handled. And if one is the authority and the other one is not, and that one goes off and does something that contradicts the authority, that's a problem.
Yes, absolutely.
So she became a lot more interesting in this. There have been hints of this. For her to just come right out, even in this, oblique manner, and suggest disobedience of Rand's declarations, was just really something else. Yep. I just think it's dangerous.
Do you think Faile would put Perrin's rise to the top above Rand's rise to the top? She would choose Perrin over Rand?
That's a great question. I think she would, yes.
Probably. And we know that he would put Faile above everyone, including Rand.
Yeah, I feel like that's just being set up.
I disagree with that.
You can disagree, but it literally says it in the book.
I don't think it's that straightforward.
He literally makes a statement that the pattern can burn. All that matters is Faile. That's literally that's not hyperbole from his standpoint. He's just being like,
he's like, this is what I am as Tyviran.
Perrin is still thoughtful enough, I think, that were it to come to,
I don't know, not when it comes to Faile, man, he loses all sense of everything.
I think that it would have to be really specific. I mean, if it was a choice between Faile and Rand,
I think he'd choose Faile.
We'll move on to Get Randy. So, Jondin Baran thinks that the Emond's field folk have collected bad karma by capturing the Aes Sedai. Have the Emond's field folk, by capturing the Aes Sedai, brought bad karma on them? Has Rand brought bad karma on all of these people by capturing the Aes Sedai?
No.
Has Rand created problems for himself by capturing the Aes Sedai?
Yes. It seems like it.
But I think he had to.
Yeah, I do too. What do you think should be done differently? Everyone's talking about it, the fact that they should be killed.
Well, he could have. Yes,
I think he did it right. I mean, he gave them over to the wise ones. They'll know what to do.
He could have handed.
Sure will.
He could have handed them over to.
Taim.
He could have handed the captured Aes Sedai over to the other Aes Sedai that have sworn fealty to him.
He should have handed them over to the White
option.
Cloaks. Make a little deal.
Right. Okay. It is an option. It's not going to. I mean, he is going to have to deal with the Aes Sedai proper at some point, and having captured these women and had them swear fealty to himself, and those who wouldn't, having them being watched over by the wise ones, that's going to be a huge problem, even for Egwene.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not garnering any favors with probably the second most powerful contingent on the continent.
How could he, though, from what he's been through with them?
He could have had them put under the authority of the Aes Sedai that swore fealty to him.
Yeah.
And he could also not have had these Aes Sedai, force these Aes Sedai to swear fealty to him either. Like, he could have had them around without that.
It was a great flex, in my opinion.
It's an enjoyable moment for all of us. I just don't think it's very savvy, ultimately.
I mean, well, think of it this way.
Probably not.
Look at it from a world perspective. Rand is conquering lands and nations, and he's now got subservient Aes Sedai to him. Like, how much of a greater power can you possibly show the lands you're trying to conquer than that? You have now subjugated. You've got the Ashaman, and you've now got subservient Aes Sedai. There's nothing more. Like, you've now literally conquered Aes Sedai. If a nation's going to resist against you with that,
there is a lot more, because the Aiel are threatening just to run off.
Okay, but I'm just talking geopolitics here. Like, on a mass scale, the other nations don't know the Aiel, thankfully, yet. At least they don't know yet that the Aiel potentially, they're having the bleakness or whatnot, and they're going to serve him. They're grudgingly doing it, but they're going to do it, and they're going to hold to their oaths. I truly believe that, because they find those oaths super important.
Yeah, they have to.
Unless they're Black Aja.
Unless they're Black Aja, which is the ultimate trump card for everything. Like, you can't,
Right.
That's your get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
Which maybe we know some of them are. Well, I don't know who all. I don't know exactly who all swore. I don't think they've revealed that. So.
Oh, I'm sure we're gonna have a couple more popping up here and there.
Right, but I mean, I think that's like, I agree that it can cause problems, but I think on the grander scale, like that's power, which Rand needs right now.
Well, but my question wasn't whether or not Rand had power. My question was whether or not it was wise to subjugate these women.
And I think it is. I think he might not have been thinking it at that level that I'm thinking of it at. It was probably more reactionary, or who knows? It might have been one of these crazy Taviran things where it just happened in the moment, and that's the way things went. I don't know. But I think the long game, at this point, and I could be proven wrong, but I think it's I think it's will be wise.
I think there are a lot of people who don't like the idea that he's captured Aes Sedai, even within his camp. There are some who
they all seem to be the Andorans, or they all seem to be the Two Rivers people, though.
Sure, yes, I would mostly agree with that.
The Carianan don't care; they can't stand the One Power, so they don't care. Or not, excuse me, the Tyrans. The Carianan. I mean, I don't know what they necessarily think, but
do you consider at this point, you probably consider the Tinker Boy
Aram.
Two Rivers folk.
You would in ways he is, but in ways he's beyond that.
Yeah, no, he's that man is slowly going.
Yeah, he's into the realms of madness.
Do you think he's just going to go to the dark side? Is he going to be Anakin?
Maybe, man. It's not looking good for our.
I haven't
our
even thought
Aram.
about that. Oh my goodness, he's definitely going to go to the dark side.
I think that he's creating problems for himself with the manner in which he's handling the Aes Sedai. I think it's too high-handed, and I'm just talking about from a perception standpoint. For most of the common folk on the continent, we're getting this sense that there will be a perception that he's gone too far. Granted, that's because people just recognize the Aes Sedai as the major authority on the continent, and Rand is a new thing, so they don't understand that he's usurped that authority, and he's doing that now in order, I guess, as a demonstration that he is the authority. But people are very slow to change their minds of an authoritative of that paradigm, that model of who sits on top. And I think that they're still going to perceive that the Aes Sedai do, and that Rand has overstepped himself here. And I think it's going to make Rand unpopular. And I think he could have done some things to avoid that. So Min and Rand seem to have grown closer through this ordeal. These 6 chapters really seem to show a much closer, a progression in the relationship of Min and Rand. Would you agree?
I think it's almost more in what's not said than what's said. Because it's more in just like, the way Min's looking at Rand, or, she'll rest her hand on his shoulder, or just kind of like there's this amplified, it seems like, level of concern between the two of them. And even concern isn't even the right word, but just like, there's a depth to it that potentially wasn't there before. We obviously saw it going that way before, but that way before it seemed like it was more Min teasing Rand about stuff, and now it's more serious to me.
Yes, we certainly saw Min and Rand being a lot more playful, but now they've been through a serious ordeal, and it's added depth to the relationship. You see this in film, where two people who, don't know each other go through an ordeal and end up much closer than they started out with, because of the trying circumstances that they go through. I think of Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, where they begin off total strangers and they go through this incredibly intense ordeal, and by the end they have a very tight relationship. Min and Rand started off with a very romantic, despite Rand's ignorance, relationship. And now, yes, it seems to have moved on from playful to, like you said, something a lot more serious. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses, because I don't know that Rand has this serious of a relationship with Elaine. I think he does with Aviendha. His relationship with Aviendha is a little bit more serious, but his relationship with Elaine is very, very light, I think, and playful in the same way that his with Min's was, and his relationship with Min now has progressed beyond that.
It's definitely not to the level that this is. Yeah. But I'm curious, though. So obviously we know they went through this ordeal together, but how much togetherness of it did they go through?
Well, they certainly weren't with each other during
it. And that's
Rand
what I wonder.
Was
like,
in
I wonder.
Box. But don't forget, Rand saw her torture.
Right, yeah. I wonder how often that happened.
And she knew of his situation.
Right, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, it never says. I'm curious to know how often knowing these jerk Aes Sedai, they probably made him watch it happen all the time.
And even if it wasn't as frequently as you might think, they were still suffering under similar circumstances from proxy, the same people at the same time. So Would you say this is the tightest of all of the female, of all of the love interests that he has up to this point?
I would have said was that way to begin with.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just because, I mean, there wasn't a relationship in the sense of he was kissing Elaine, he's canoodling in the corner. Obviously, he slept with Avienda, so they've got like complications there. There's relationship complications. This was just, I say just, we obviously know she was crazy about him. He's very interested in her, but wasn't pursuing anything. So there wasn't that entanglement that the other relationships had. So it could be more, even though he was in denial, but it could be more just playful and fun. But at the same time, even though it was playful and fun, it was more pure, maybe, because
sure.
it wasn't fettered by all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't see her the way he sees the other two. Oh, they're doomed. If they fall in love with me, or if I fall in love with them, they're gonna die. I'm gonna die. They're gonna get killed. People might come to hurt them. What he has this gloom and doom thing about these relationships he's gonna be in, but he didn't have to have that with men other than having to protect her because he cares about her. So he didn't get hung up on all that other sorts of stuff. So I think because of that, the relationship ran its course better than the other two.
Isn't that a product of the fact that they were much better friends?
Yes, I think so. Absolutely. And because he only saw it as being friendship, that also worked out. Plus, he also met her first. I mean, he met her before he met anybody else. And even though there were gaps there, where...
Serious gaps.
Yeah. But, I mean, Avienda is such a strange thing because she's clearly head over heels in love with him, as we know. She can't tell him.
That relationship is definitely the most complicated.
Right. I mean, you've got the wise ones, you've got that relationship, you've got...
And they're totally different cultures.
Yeah. So it's just... And he's like... Can't once again admit his feelings about things. So it'll be interesting to see... The only one he's really admitted his feelings about is Elaine. In the bad way that he does it.
These things are going to eventually just have to reach a point of, each one of them will have to reach a point of critical mass where he simply can't deny that he is more than just friends with these women.
He knows he was at one given point more than just friends with Avienda, but I wonder who's going to make that move. Is it going to be Avienda or is it going to be Rand?
I don't know that that's going to require a move so much as just Rand reaching an emotional point, an emotional tipping point.
Well, I think someone probably is going to have to say, either we're going to crap or get off the pot here. I mean, someone's going to have to say something. Otherwise, there's no course to run. I mean, it's kind of like it's at a stalemate right now because no one's saying anything and no one's admitting anything, and someone's going to have to do something.
Don't forget that these women are actually emotionally more worldly than Rand is.
Yes, they are. And the interesting thing is all these three have all communicated with each other, at least two of the three. Two of the three sides of the triangle all have conversed with each other that it's okay, we can share him. And Rand just hung up on this whole, I'm gross. What's going on here? Like, I can't do this. So I wonder if and or when he's ever going to get past that. It should be interesting. Circling back to the point about these two, I almost miss the playfulness because I wonder if that'll ever return. We get kind of glimpses of them laughing at it, but they've gone through such a intense thing that I think it has scarred them, and I hope it hasn't scarred the relationship.
There's a sorrow to it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
The other thing, by you developing the idea and me mentioning that these women are more worldly emotionally than Rand is, would lead me to believe then that if there is going to be some kind of action to clarify the relationships, it's probably going to come from one of these women rather than Rand.
Yeah. I can see Min doing it, being like, you woolhead. Have you not figured this out yet? And Rand's going to be like, what are you talking about?
But at the same time,
you're just my friend, Min.
She also has been enjoying deflecting things by trying to pretend that she's being friendly, playful.
Right, but I unfortunately think we've lost that now.
Okay.
That's what I'm seeing. I hope I'm wrong because I do hope that is able to return. Even if it's not able to return with them, at least to her character just in general, because that's what she's always been. she's had the ability to be serious, but she's also had the ability to be lighthearted, and she's just gotten beaten and, saw Rand got beaten and a little mass murder going on. And that's a lot to take in, and I hope it hasn't damaged her psyche.
I will be interested to see what happens when these two join either Elaine or Avienda.
Right.
And they see this relationship, because it's obviously pretty serious, despite the fact that Min has been pretending to be a friend, a confusing friend.
Right. Well, it isn't even just pretending. She's had to be, because I think she's waiting on Rand to make a move.
I think she's chosen to be, and she's done that to protect herself so that she doesn't make herself emotionally vulnerable to him, turning away.
Right, which he very well could do.
So all that happens in that starts to develop in chapter 2. Also in chapter 2, where we experience Perrin's nose and his witnessing of what's going on around him. We learn that through Perrin's nose that Rand hates and fears Mazrim Taim.
Well, I don't think it's Rand.
Yeah, Rand. Yep.
Yes, I don't think it's Rand. I think it's Lews Therin.
Okay.
Well, I think Rand just doesn't. I just think Rand just doesn't like him.
Rand hates and fears Mazrim Taim?
I don't think he has those two things. I think he just does. I think he
just hates him or
doesn't trust him. I think all that other stuff is coming from Therin. Because Theron's
I agree. Theron does see something in him that he wants destroyed.
Right.
Every time Theron comes to the forefront, he wants his Rand to kill Taim. So that's interesting. So then that would mean I think this is the first time then that we would have had Perrin smell Theron. Because up to this point, Perrin's really just been smelling Rand.
Yes, but he made some sort of statement about Rand's emotions flickering and changing, and I think he was smelling the two of them, but he didn't know what it was that he was smelling.
Sure, yes. I think that Rand is starting, is developing a healthy distaste for Taim, and we've been concerned about that relationship. It's going to be fascinating to see how this continues, because now he has an idea of exactly how destructive Taim and his cohort of Ashaman are. Rand has this man that in charge of it, and I guess what you're saying is that maybe Rand hasn't come to a full realization yet of how dangerous Taim is, and it's just Theron still railing inside his head that's the one that's the most concerned, which is concerning.
Yeah, I'm sure Rand obviously doesn't trust him and doesn't like him because, well, for starters, he claimed to be the Dragon Reborn, and we know Rand is the Dragon Reborn. So I'm sure there is a level of distrust, probably a level of fear, but I think it's not to the level that what Perrin's picking up on. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, but it just, of the two of them, I think the one that's going to have the stronger, if you were sent to pick up, it's going to be Theron, because he's so much more bipolar about stuff. He's either calm or he's 0 to 60 in no time at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's not something that I had actually thought of in relationship to this question, but since you've raised it, I totally agree. This is, and then this isn't anything new. This is just a development on a theme, because we've known that Theron has been anti-Taim for some time now.
Right.
One of the other things that Perrin smells is that Taim is amused by what he sees in Rand's camp, this camp that Rand has formed post Dumais Wells, this camp that is, a little bit Kyrianan, a little bit Tyron, a little bit Aes Sedai, a little bit Aiel. So this camp is a smattering of all these things, and Taim looks around and is amused by it. Does that mean anything to you?
It's so hard to tell with Taim because he's always amused by something secretly. Something's always making him smile.
He does think he's better than everything.
Yeah, well, it's just that, and there's some inner joke or maybe inner monologue or who knows what that he's got going on that we're not privy to.
Isn't the purpose of this section to show how disparate all these different elements of this camp are? Could that be why Time
It's
is
a giant
amused?
tinderbox.
It seems that everybody has some kind of question about how he's handling the Aes Sedai, for one thing, and then you have all of these different elements on top of it, all these different cultures. But it seems to mostly revolve around the Aes Sedai. Either way, they're fractured, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's very dysfunctional.
And if Time is amused by this, it's just another element demonstrating that he is not pro Rand's team.
Yeah. But he is to an extent, though. Pro Rand's team, you're saying specifically?
Right. It's hard to determine because we always have the fact that he did come to Rand's rescue as a huge monkey wrench in any way to identify him as an antagonist, right? But at the same time, we just finished with a book which seemed to be full of intelligence and counterintelligence and red herrings and plans with, and sleeper cells and plans which were designed to look like victories for one side, ultimately in order to set up some sort of greater victory. So I don't think any of us believe that Time is safe or that Rand is safe from Time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't at this point quite yet feel like Time's trying to make any sort of move yet.
Oh, no. No, I mean, we haven't seen anything.
Yeah. I mean, you're just talking about being safe from him.
But even you mentioning that means you anticipate it coming at some point.
Just because I don't trust the guy.
Right. We do not trust this man despite the fact that without him...
He saved Rand's life.
Right. Rand is dead. Without him, Rand would have to do something even more heroic than what he did, which was pretty crazy, knocking out all those.
Yeah, without him, Perrin's definitely dead. So is Loyal. So are a lot of the Aiel. So are a
lot of these people that we don't think he actually likes.
Right.
So there's that.
So it's confusing.
Yes. Well, we're not confused. We still think he's a bad guy, but we just don't understand the ultimate purpose for what he did.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So we just mentioned the fact that a lot of the reason for the fractures in this camp are because of Rand's relationship to the Aes Sedai. He has subjugated some by making them swear fealty to him, and he's imprisoned others. Rand now seems to view himself as superior to the Aes Sedai. Do you share that opinion, or do you think there's something else going on with his relationship to the ones that he has in this camp? And I guess Aes Sedai in general.
Wait, who, Rand?
Yes.
You think Rand feels like he's superior to the Aes Sedai?
There are hints during chapter 2 that this is how he feels.
To me, I just take it as contempt. I didn't take it as superiority. And contempt for the right reasons. For example, like he told them you were only supposed to bring X amount of people. You didn't do that. Perrin also did the same thing. Perrin said, hey, I told you to stay here. You didn't stay here. You disobeyed me. So it's like, I don't think those two are very much different in that regards. Like, to me, it's contempt. Where are you getting the superiority thing? That I wasn't picking up.
Like I said, it's not mentioned outright. We get the sense that Rand, I mean, he's making decisions about these women. He's not consulting any of them. He's not consulting with their leadership. There's no diplomacy here whatsoever. He imprisons them and makes them swear fealty to him. He's got to believe that he can, at this point, whether it's true or false, he's got to believe that his plans for how things are going to go are the most important plans, and that any plans, which I'm sure he feels like the Aes Sedai have, need to be subjugated. I feel like I keep using that word or suborned to his own plans. Like his own plans for the entire continent are the most important plans there are. And that's on a continent where up to this point, the Aes Sedai have felt the same way.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by superiority is not that he's more powerful than they are, though I think we're starting to see. I mean, if he's as powerful as the Forsaken, he's more powerful than any single Aes Sedai that we've seen up to this point. And I would guess that we would see, though who knows? We've got plenty of books here left to go. Prior to this, his relationship with them he's just been concerned with them. He hasn't wanted to fall into any of their tricks. And now it seems like he feels like, for the first time, we're seeing him feel like they're a tool that he is going to use. Otherwise, why would he have these women under his thumb?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons why he has them under his thumb is so he can keep track of them.
Sure, right. So they just simply don't cause him any problems.
Right, because we've seen what happens when they're running willy-nilly, and it's not good. Yeah, especially, but he's got two different factions he's got to contend with now. I mean, and all in the same camp. So it isn't just him and them. They can't stand each other either, too. So there's that, I'm talking about the tinderbox. There's that level of spark also, which we haven't seen yet, but I'm just waiting for that to happen, too.
And along those lines, I mean, what do you think about the way that he's treating the Aes Sedai?
I don't have any issue with it. I think he may be causing himself some problems down the road with how kind of callous he's being about it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, they earned it. They brought this on themselves.
Yeah, maybe
not as much the rebels, and I say not as much, but they the world's most popular phrase right now is that whole F around and find out thing. Everyone just loves pulling that for any situation. But it's kind of true in this situation. They tried to play hardball with him in Camelin, or Carian, or wherever they were. I think it was Camelin.
Camelin.
They misunderstood a situation. They didn't follow enough details through it. They were like, okay, well,
They were also manipulated too by outside forces.
They were. They could have followed through more than they did, but they didn't.
Yes.
And once again, it was like the perfect storm of things that happened.
So that leads to a good question. How is Egwene going to take this?
Oh, it's not going to be good.
No, I don't think so.
And better yet, Rand still has no idea she's the Amyrlin. So
correct.
It's going to go over horribly. She's not going to be real happy about it all. The conversation between those two, whenever it happens, and I'm sure it's going to happen, is going to be really interesting. But she shouldn't be happy about it.
No, because I don't think he's not been
that I disagree with it, but she shouldn't be.
You may agree with the end result. He could have gotten there a little bit better. I mean, I think that there's the possibility of him getting to the point of this a little bit better. And I think one of the ways that could have occurred is through before he just started, making all these women swear to him, maybe talking on the rebel side, talking to their leadership, figuring out who that was and talking to their leadership. Do you get any sense that he feels like that's his better opportunity? I mean, it seemed to be that he felt that way, unless I'm totally wrong. Isn't that where his better opportunity for a relationship lies, is with the rebels? I mean,
yes. Agreed. I wonder how much of that was being ta'veren. That relationship, though, of them being, subservient or sworn to him, I think is actually going to be a good thing. Because now he knows they're not going to break that unless they're black. And he needs them. They need him just as much as he needs them. He doesn't realize that yet. But he needs the rebels to be on his side. He needs to have some rebels that he can quote unquote trust.
There's just a big difference between somebody who's an ally and somebody who's a tool. I feel like it's a lot easier to trust
I hope
an
it'll
ally.
become to that point, though.
There's a lot of work to do.
Well, yeah.
There's a lot of work to do. I mean, because he is really at this point his best shot was his old girlfriend, and now he's just blown that up. I mean, that relationship is at least the next time that they meet over these circumstances, it's not going to be as amicable, because she's also trying to prove herself as the leader of this faction, and honestly, in the end, the leader of the Aes Sedai as a whole, and just acquiescing to Rand's whims here is not going to look good for her power.
I don't think she
structure.
will, but at the same time, there's no way around it anymore at this point with these ones that are sworn to him. That you can't. She's not going to be able to step back the clock and say, "No, you can't do that," because they have sworn an oath. Like she can't. You can't roll this back.
Yeah, really looking forward to this meeting between Rand and Egwene.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Why do you think Time was so insistent on Rand having an honor guard? Do you think it was really just all about the respect that Rand deserves?
No.
So what did he want there? Did he just want
spying on Rand?
Yeah, he just
That's all I
wanted
can
somebody
think
to
of.
spy on Rand, and Rand was like, I see what you're doing, so I'm going to use my Taviran nature to just pick somebody at random.
Right.
That dreamy looking, well, not dreamy
That's
looking.
Space
but,
Cadet.
Yes, exactly. Marvin the Martian over there.
Well, everyone was completely surprised. Even the guy was surprised. Rand was surprised.
He seems to be
Taim was
surprised by anything,
Well,
though.
yeah, that's
Dasha
true.
is constantly.
That's true, but like he wasn't obviously who Taim would have chosen, so I don't think he's necessarily one of his lackeys.
No, right. I mean, I think that's what Rand was relying on, right? Is his
Yeah.
Taviran nature to choose somebody who was going to be a better relationship for Rand.
Right. In as much as he actually wants to have a relationship with that guy. I think he's got like Dahmer and those other guys that he is starting to trust, or that he has some feeling like they're not part of. They don't seem to be part of Taim's clique, if you will.
Right. Right.
Which is probably good.
His inner cohort.
Yeah.
Speaking of Time, we also learned that he is being called the Mahale by the Ashaman. So just to further,
He's given himself some title. Of course he has.
Reinforce, right, that he sees. This is such an obvious problem.
There's a coup going on, it feels like.
Yeah. And it's not even subtle. And Rand just doesn't have a choice because he needs. I think. If he's going to fight the Dark One, he needs as many people who can channel as possible, I guess.
Yeah.
And the Aes Sedai are totally different weapons than the Ashaman. I mean, the Aes Sedai need to be attacked first in order to do anything, and the Ashaman can use earth and fire, which most of the female channelers cannot, at least not to any great degree. So this is the reason why he needs these men. In Chapter 4, we get more instances where Perrin is seeing Rand listen to Luz, to your point earlier. So we're seeing more and more of this where other people now close to Rand are witnessing him seeming to have conversations inside his head. So the rumors of his insanity, I'm sure, are going to be spreading pretty soon. And in Chapter 6, Perrin insists that Rand shouldn't allow the Aes Sedai to be too greatly distressed by the Wise Ones because they're women. Rand doesn't see it that way. Is Rand getting past this men shouldn't hurt women thing now that he's incarcerating some of these? Well, not incarcerating, but imprisoning some of these Aes Sedai, putting them under guard?
No, he's shifting it off to somebody else.
I guess because he's not killing these women,
right,
it's
exactly.
okay to sort of mistreat them.
And not only that, he's not going to be around when it happens. So, what he's not around, he doesn't know.
In some of the few paragraphs, Perrin briefly sees the old Rand, exhausted with must be done, and then he thinks that Rand was not really Rand anymore, which really hurt me. This has been coming on for a while, and we've had little mile markers of it along the way where the boy has disappeared. At this point, he's totally gone. Like and it's funny because on the one hand, he acts like a boy with his relationship with with his 3 romantic relationships. But on the other hand, he's a hardened battle leader at this point who has multiple plans in place and is and is planning things that are going to happen and leading more happy to lead men to die, though he's never really all that thrilled about that.
He doesn't seem to get hung up on it, though, unless it's the people from his village.
Well, and I don't think you mean to say that he's calloused. It's just that remember that he has the mantra of, duty is as heavy as a mountain. So he knows that this has to be done. And a long time ago, we saw him deal with the fact that he is going to lead men off to war, that ultimately that's what's going to happen. They don't call it the last coffee together. It's called the last battle. So he's known that, that there was going to be military conflicts leading up to it. And I think sometime prior, he made himself comfortable with the whole situation. So that's Rand in these chapters. We get a lot of witnesses to his actions from the outside. We're glad that he's out of that box, but he still somehow seems boxed in by all these events. So, Dave, who was your Coplin of the week?
Mine was Perrin, actually. I couldn't stand him in these chapters. Like, he just...
Have you been able to stand him for a while?
I was.
Annoying. Oh, okay.
I was.
Nice.
Like, when they were in Andor... Yep. And they were fighting the Trollocs.
Okay, well, that was a while ago.
That was a while ago,
He's been in Camelin now for
when he's with her, he's fine to an extent. When she's not around, he turns into a moron.
A sap.
Yes. Yeah, and well, he just makes bad decisions, too. Like, on the way there, they're having this whole conversation, and he's just shouting at people, but what about Faile? Meanwhile, like, geopolitics are being discussed. Right. Massive important things are happening. He doesn't care. The pattern can burn if not for Faile. True. Like, this is the worst statement. Loyal is looking at him like, Perrin, you don't mean that. But he does mean that.
He's a little micro-focused.
He's that dumb about her. Like, he has lost his sense of reasoning about the world around him unless Faile is
Faile the worst thing that's happened to Perrin?
She's both the worst and the best. Because at times she gives him a backbone he wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah, for sure.
But if she's not around... the wheels just fall off the train. And it's like, what happened to you? Who were you before this woman came along? Like, where was your sense of independence and identity? And now all of a sudden your whole identity is this woman. That's a sad statement indeed. And if that's the case, like, we got problems.
My Coplin of the week was Faile. I am, we went for a whole book without Perrin. And we were so happy to see Perrin at the beginning of last book. And then it was mopey Perrin because of Barrelane and Faile, and then he was away from Faile, and then we get Faile back, and she just operates like an independent agent who is not looking out for the betterment of the world. What's more important is her and Perrin's betterment. And so she thinks because that she has royal heritage and royal experience that she knows better than Rand. And she's just she doesn't follow through with the assassination plot on Colavaere.
Is that bad? Because then you'd have Rand against you. I wouldn't want that.
Right. That's why it's bad. That's why it's bad that she suggested it in the first place.
Interesting. Okay.
I think, and you mentioned this earlier, that the idea is good.
Right.
I think it's the law.
I think it's what needs to be done.
Right. But once the person in charge has made a decision, whether it's right or wrong, you don't go behind that person's back and just execute your own ideas. If anything,
right, which she recognizes, which I think why she doesn't do it.
Is that why she doesn't do it, or does she not do it because she just doesn't get enough support here in this conversation?
Oh, no. I think... I don't want to say, oh, no, but...
Isn't it? It's with Dobrain, right? It's Dobrain, yeah, and Perrin and she.
I think if Perrin found out...
Oh, Perrin figures out what's going on.
If he found out that she did it...
Right.
There would be hell to pay. Also, Dobrain is not going to go against Rand.
Right, and that's the reason why I think this gets shot down.
But I do. She's not dumb. Like,
No.
there's things she's going to do. She's savvy enough to be kind of like, I think this should be done, but there's no way I'm crossing Rand to do it. Because if it gets found out, I'm not going to be good.
It's interesting that that's where you went when you said she's not dumb, because what I thought of was she could probably arrange for it in such a way that it wouldn't come back to her.
She could possibly, but I don't know if she's willing to risk that small percentage of a chance to screw things up for her. It's self-serving.
Then why does she bring it up here in the first place? I think she's looking for allies, and when she doesn't see she has any, she backs off.
I don't think you think she cares that much about allies?
Yeah. In any venture that you do, especially something like this where you're going to go behind the Lord's back, the Lord being Rand, it's better to have, people on your, who agree with your idea than not. That's otherwise why bring it up, right? She trial balloons this. It doesn't get any support, so she lets it go to the wayside. I think that if Dobrain had, in his own obscure way, offered his support, I think this idea would have been moved forward. Otherwise, why bring it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of truth to what you're saying, in terms of she does want to try to get support. I just don't know that she would go through with it because of the risk. And there's no way, if she's having this conversation in front of parents, she knows there's no way he's going along with it. Like, there's no way.
So then why does she bring it up? If she
that's a good question. Maybe she's bringing up to have Dobrain do it.
She wants somebody else to take the risk rather than
sure.
her. So in the end, she still wants it done. She's just not willing to do it herself.
There's no question she wants it done. I think she wants it done, and I personally think it should be done because, once again, that is the law. And, Rand just, once again, you were asking earlier, has Rand gotten over his thing with women? No, he hasn't, and here's why. He finds an end-around excuse to not have to have her killed.
Adam, who is your Coplin of the week?
Oh, my Coplin was the Shido that decided to, or the Aiel that decided to follow the Shido. Like,
the
what do you see
ones?
in the Shido?
Right.
That's going to be beneficial for you.
I mean, they've already got a couple 100,000 of them, so they're.
But those numbers are dwindling. There's mass death going
dwindling,
on. Yeah.
Well,
they just got wiped out by Dumais Wells.
They were also just running away.
Well, what would you have had them do?
Die.
Right.
No, I wouldn't have had them run away, but they joined them after that.
Oh,
you're talking about the reference to the recurrence of the bleakness and the fact that with the bleakness, some of the Aes Sedai, some of those Aiel are going to join the Shido.
But
I do feel a little bad now that you brought up the bleakness because it's a wonderful terminology and that's sad. And I don't know what you can do to fight against it, but don't join those folk.
I really don't understand the lack of understanding of the fact that the Shido at this point aren't Aiel. They're not Aiel. Yes. They look like Aiel and they dress like Aiel, but they're not Aiel. They don't hold any of the Aiel customs any longer, except for the Codden Sore, maybe for the maidens, and that's about it. They are using the idea of the wise ones so that Savannah can claim herself as one of them, but she wasn't raised by going to Rhydian. Yeah. So she's she's the first self-appointed wise one that we know of in Aiel history.
And for some strange reason, she's making it work for her.
But I guess things are changing in, I guess, the tower in that sense.
You know what it is, Adam? It's times that they're changing.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know what? Go pound sand, all y'all that are.
Is that Ozzy Osbourne? The times they are a changing.
It is.
That was a very interesting.
It was.
I thought you could have done better with that.
You think I could have? You think
that was something? All right.
I think Dave's Ozzy is better than your Ozzy.
It could be, but I couldn't do it right now because I'm so stuck in my head hearing Eric's one.
I was doing most interesting Ozzy. That was interesting and off the crazy train rails Ozzy.
That was definitely off the crazy train rails.
Yeah, it started out okay, and then it just descended into madness.
Yes, it did. It transitioned into
sort of like Ozzy Osbourne.
I don't know if it started out okay.
You started out okay and then descended into madness.
Was it a diary of a madman is the question.
Right.
Yeah,
Barking the moon.
Madman.
I'm barking crazy.
Yeah.
Who leveled up? Dave.
So it's funny that you picked Faile as your person that you couldn't stand. For me, Faile was the one that leveled up.
Okay.
For the reason that she wants, she's a daughter of a ruler, of rulers. She gets what has to be done, not only from the letter of the law, but she insinuated herself into the company of a ruler to get the dirt, and she got the dirt. Now, obviously, that girl disappeared, and there's not much she could do about that. But she risked her own life. She insinuated herself into Colavere's thing. She got pitted against Barrelane, which had to be I don't
think she insinuated. I think Colavaere just chose her, right? Colavaere knew who she was. And
she knew who she was,
and then pitted her against Barrelane.
But Barrelane, she could have left.
She could have snuck out, maybe, sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Colavaere was doing it too because, right, she wanted her there. Well, I don't know if it's so much that Colavaere wanted her there, but once she was there, then she knew what she was going to do with her.
We learned through the narration that the reason that she is where she is because Colavaere chose her.
Okay, I thought she had chosen to be there.
No.
Either way, when she was there, she was doing the down and dirty, like she was doing the work, having to deal with the Barrelane thing, which must not have been fun for either of them.
No, right.
Because they both can't stand each other.
Well, more Faile than Barrelane.
Yeah, Barrelane's just like, well, I'm going to get what I want, so right. Toodaloo.
Barrelane doesn't care about Faile. Faile cares very much about Barrelane.
Right, yeah. And then she came up with the proposal, whether we like it or not, whether it's, it's whatever. And I do think, and annoying as she is with the whole sheep wives thing, like
sheep wives
or whatever she says about the farm girls, at harvest.
Oh, I'm
as forward as a farm girl at harvest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that was actually almost my Willow moment for the week.
What these farm girls are doing
yes,
up
exactly.
there in Saldea.
And how he bursts out laughing when she says that. That moment there was almost my Willow of the week instead of the whole Loyal furiously taking notes, because it was just so funny. Barry White's playing in the background. She says that and he just loses it. Like he just can't keep a straight face, and she gets frustrated. And that was great. So yeah, for me, that's who leveled up for those reasons.
Adam?
Perrin's nose.
Perrin's nose definitely
just
levels
to make
up
Eric
there.
happy.
Yeah.
Perrin's nose was doing.
Well, Perrin's nose becomes
so
a character of its own, right? It was doing a lot of work.
What's really funny is there's an episode of It's Always Sunny where they talk about writing a movie, and they think that they read about a detective that can just smell crime. Basically, Perrin's nose.
That's basically Perrin. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Perrin's nose can smell. It can't smell dead people.
No,
but he can just smell stuff and know what's going on.
Or think something is amiss for that matter.
Right, but he's no Cyrano de Bergerac, so I mean,
maybe
he still has a normal size nose.
I mean, well, you don't know that.
He might be.
His nose definitely does take over for these chapters.
I'm trying to turn this down.
Hey, don't get the microphone in the shot, Adam. Keep the boom out of the shot.
There.
So my level up was Dashiva. He goes from almost nobody to Rand's second in command.
Did he do anything to deserve that?
No, nope.
So he leveled up by proxy,
right? But he
by
does
circumstance.
He does create a gateway that allows that entire army,
which
that
apparently any of them could have done,
group of people through, and now he is going to be around Rand all the time.
Yeah, that space cadet's going to be around Rand all the time.
So he has been elevated out of the crowd to a position of preeminence, and it'll be we're gonna be getting stories about Dashiva moving forward, which I am looking forward to because he's an interesting little guy. So that wraps up episode 12, where we covered chapters 1 through 6. Join us for episode 13, when we cover chapters 7 through 12. Until then, may you rest in the Creator's hand.
Doviende se toviets again.
May you know good hunting, young bull, and she's to give you many cubs.